This week I'm in Budapest for breakfast with the Hungarian member of the European Parliament, Livia Járóka. She is running for a fourth term in Brussels and she's a member of Viktor Orbán's Fidesz party, which for the time being is still in the European People's Party, the largest grouping in Brussels. Livia, thank you very much for hosting us here. Let's start
most welcome.
With why you've chosen to bring us here.
This place is especially important for my family. I come from a very famous musician, gypsy family, who my ancestors were brought up here.
So there's a game we're playing with the MEPs. It is a word association game. I say one word to you, you say the first word that comes into your head after that. So I will start with Brussels.
Stress.
Jean-Claude Juncker.
Roma strategy.
Viktor Orbán.
Roma strategy.
Populism.
Populism. Music.
Brexit.
Populism.
Fidesz, the party that you're affiliated with, has got a lot of attention recently, yes, particularly with these European elections, because it's been suspended from the European People's Party, its grouping in the European Parliament. What does that mean for your day-to-day running? Has that had any effect on the way you do your work in Brussels?
Not really, but I had spent a little bit more time explaining and talking to my colleagues around the EPP, because I believe in a strong unity. I do believe that we have to work together for the next generation, and there are so many issues that has to be tackled now.
How has it affected your relationship with them, though? Because suddenly you know that some of them have voted against you, or that they weren't, you know, they didn't want you in the party.
Yes, but it became better because there was at least a possibility for discussion, clear discussions, and we got to know each other better. And I always had a good relationship, also in EPP and also in Fidesz with the leaders. And I was able a lot of times to communicate between them or to help a bridge.
Is there a sense, though, for you that you can understand why those MEPs might have wanted to go further and expel Fidesz from the EPP? Can you understand that?
You would think that I would, because I was educated at very liberal universities. All my life I was a real Christian liberal. And this time it's not about really values. I took every criticism very seriously, and I went back. Fidesz knows that I'm a very big critical inside of Fidesz as well, so I didn't spare the time to go after every single case that we were accused of, from Magyar Garda, anti-Roma or anti-Semitic ideas to other issues. And I have to say, because I have a very good relationship to many of the critical MEPs against us, that in the end, in all of the cases, it turned out that they had false information. I'm the last person to defend Viktor Orbán on false basis. I stood up in the parliament asking for a fair deal, because I knew that the Sargentini report was a lie.
How can it be though that Judith Sargentini and her team go in and that they come back with this report that does say there is still anti-Semitism, there is anti-Roma,
you have to ask her.
There is anti-LGBT.
You have to ask her, how is it possible?
How is it that you, with this strong sense of sticking up for the underdog,
I worked for 20 years
for
liberal and socialist organizations. The horrible treatment that minorities have to have under the so-called liberal fake aiding and money-stealing organizations. Don't try to tell me that the situation is worse now, when finally people can have their own say. They are not misled by different NGOs.
Which people?
The normal Hungarian village citizens finally can get EU money to develop their own communities.
So EU money that, for example,
for integration of the poor, for example,
lighting,
integration of the migrants.
Street lighting,
you know how much money
street lighting, for example,
on integrating
that
the
is
migrants.
going to contracts to Viktor Orbán's son-in-law before the EU funding is even approved. I mean, crony capitalism is not the way to help the people in Hungarian villages.
You have to ask these people about their issues.
Do you think Fidesz wants to be in the EPP?
Yes. I know that they want to be there.
So why is it running campaign posters against Juncker with George Soros in the picture, saying that Hungarians don't know what's going on in Brussels? Why is it behaving like that if it wants to continue to be in Fidesz? And why has Viktor Orbán just withdrawn his support from the EPP's lead candidate, Manfred Weber?
Because this is what he thinks. He has been looking at the situation for many months. He has been on a talk with the EU and EPP on Hungarian rights and wrongs. So I think he has a clear opinion about the position of Fidesz in EPP, and many of his colleagues inside of Fidesz is so strongly supporting him on being critical, but of course not stopping the ties, because we always belong together. Our values are the same. That's why we are together.
I want to put it to you that Orbán thinks, why don't we stay, Fidesz stays in the EPP until these elections are finished. We see how the vote goes, and if anti-immigration parties do well, that's where we go. And afterwards, we drop the EPP
I don't
and
think
we
that
move over
he
to
cares
Salvini.
what anti-immigration parties do well or not.
It is
I
almost
think
his
what he
single
cares,
policy.
what he cares about is how EPP is doing on it, and that's what he works for now.
On immigration?
Generally on the elections. Do people believe EPP is the leading force of Europe or not? This is what Orbán is looking at, and also he's looking at the voters are going to tell what they believe on migration, and Orbán doesn't really is not interested about migration anymore. What we are talking about now is integration.
You've been in the parliament on and off for 15 years or so. You're standing for this fourth term. Do you ever think it's time to step down to make way for the new generation?
Yes, also because I don't feel I'm updated enough anymore. I have to get myself around with very young advisors. The reason why I returned for the third and the fourth time already was because what I reached in the parliament with a very strong coalition and very strong points on anti-Gypsyism and integration of the poor, 100 million in Europe. The parliament supported it very much, but the commission was so weak that they couldn't put it into practice. My next mission now is to make sure that the best people work in the commission, because many of us are getting tired. Many of the Roma activists are dying with illness.
Who do you want to be president, the next president of the European Commission? Who would be your choice?
Oh, good question. I would choose a woman if it was me.
Do you have an idea of which woman?
I have an idea, but I won't tell.
Not you. You don't want to run for it.
Funny.
You don't want to run for it.
You are.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining my breakfast or accepting my breakfast.